Hello, thank you for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I'm David Pendergrass. I just recently had a counseling session with a man and a gentleman, and I was so proud of him. He, like most men, is not good at processing sadness and grief, and he's been through a lot of things in his life, a lot of losses, and he's trying to get better at processing that and getting in touch with his feelings. And we were talking about several things, but one thing really hit me again that I've talked about on this podcast before, I'm sure, but I think this is worth hearing again because I say this so often to people. We all have, this is not a novel observation. If you know counseling, you're going to say, of course, David, but I'm trying this as a form of encouragement for the rest of us, just in case you're not aware of this, or maybe if you are, maybe to hear it again is encouraging. We all have core beliefs, really core beliefs about how we see ourselves, how we see the world. And those beliefs can be true, they can be false, but they are in us. And sometimes it's difficult to discover what those beliefs are because we've spent so much energy judging ourselves or discounting our own feelings and beliefs that it's difficult to figure out what it is we really do believe. And oftentimes, those beliefs are based on a fear. And the problem with fears, of course, fears can be rational, that is based on reality. There really is a bear in the room. I'm scared of bears or a spider or whatever. And they can be irrational, which is there is no spider in the room, but I think there is, and so my anxiety is skyrocketing. And we make decisions in life usually based on the beliefs we have, and oftentimes those are driven by a fear. What I'm talking about now is this exact point is at a core belief, every single human being wants to matter. Everybody wants to feel valuable. Everyone wants to feel loved and lovable and valued and valuable. Everyone, and we associate that with mattering to someone, to mattering to the world. And we're all afraid at some core level that we won't matter. There's a deep fear that every human has that we're not going to matter, we won't be valuable, won't be valued, and not lovable, and not loved. What becomes idiosyncratic, but not unique, is that people then decide what to do with those fears and those beliefs. So, for example, we might say, I'm afraid of not mattering, so I do want to matter. So I believe I matter when I do blank, when I am blank. I matter when I'm rich. I matter when I'm working hard. I matter and I'm valuable when I'm productive. I'll be lovable when I make a difference to other people. I'm valuable when I'm married. I'm lovable when I have children. I'm valuable when I take care of other people. I'm a caretaker. I'm a rescuer, whatever it might be. And when those beliefs, those core beliefs of how we self-identify, frankly, how we see ourselves, they drive so much of our behavior. And it's a real legit need that we have. And when those needs do not get met and those real fears don't get addressed and validated, we can make some really unhealthy and sometimes sinful choices because we're just trying to get these needs met. And it's common in churches, humbly in my experience, for people to go straight to, yeah, you're just sinning. You just need to repent of that sin, get God's forgiveness, and stop sinning. Well, it's true that people should stop sinning. Of course it is. But oftentimes our behavior is not driven by a desire to sin. It's typically driven by, in fact, by a desire to get some deep need met. And for so many people, the need is, I need to feel valuable. I need to feel lovable. I need to feel like I matter. And so I'm so afraid of not getting that, that I feel anxious. I feel stressed. And sometimes we have compulsive behavior that manifests itself because we're trying to get those needs met. So here's some tests. Sometimes it's difficult without a therapist or counselor to try to help you on this, but sometimes a good test would be ask the question, try to finish this sentence. Try to finish it in a sentence. So give yourself time and permission to pause for a little bit. And don't overdo it, overthink it, but ask yourself this question, or fill in the blank, you might say. I matter when. I'm valuable when. I blank. I'm lovable if I. What's difficult here is oftentimes we've never done it this way, never thought about it. But secondly, we're going to go straight to our defense mechanism. We're going to start discounting ourselves. It doesn't matter. You know the difference. Oh, that's just silly. It's difficult sometimes to get the critical voices in our mind just simply to shut up. And you have got to get yourself, if you want to be healthy, you've got to get to a place where you give yourself permission to really address the beliefs you have, regardless if they scare you, regardless if you think they're bad, regardless if you think they're negative, regardless. They're just beliefs. They're in you. And the first thing we need to do is try to address what they are. And many people think that they matter or they're valuable when blank, just fill in the blank, whatever that is. If there's anything whatsoever that's in your blank after you say the words when blank, when I blank, then you have a deep-seated conditional love of yourself. It's just like telling a young child inside of you, because we all have these children inside of ourselves, and typically it's a wounded child. It's just like telling you, yourself, you don't matter unless you're doing blank. You don't matter unless you are working hard. You don't matter if you don't have those degrees. You don't matter that much if whatever. What is it? What do you have to do? Now, Dave, that sounds so harsh. Again, if you can stop judging yourself, well, other people have it worse. Well, stop comparing yourself. If you can stop all that stuff and just listen to the inner child inside of you that says, that is a real fear I have, this is a real belief I have. And then realize what you're doing is, if you keep the belief in you, one more time, it is just like you are telling yourself, you don't matter until you do these things. That's conditional love. And whenever we feel conditional love and conditional acceptance, we will then try our best to perform to get what the thing we need. Why? Because we're afraid we're not going to get it. And so we do the dance. And we will dance for other people. We will think, for example, if it matters to you that a person deep in your childhood, you learned, mom and dad taught you either explicitly or implicitly, you don't matter until you take care of them. Maybe they're an alcoholic. Maybe they were a rage addict. Maybe whatever it is, and you had to take care of them all the time. And then what happens is you spend the rest of your life believing that you don't matter unless you are a caretaker. So then you find yourself attracted to people that you can fix and that you can care for. And you find yourself nervous or anxious around people you cannot fix. You don't like them. You don't trust them. Deep-seated fears that if they don't need me, then I don't matter to them. And so I find myself even intimately sexually attracted to the opposite sex or whatever, or certainly friendships. I really think about those kind of, you might be the kind of person that most of the friends you have are really friends because they need you. Now, deep down, actually, that makes you sad. It makes you a little frustrated because you realize that. You realize that they really only are your friend because you provide a service to them. And you don't like that. But you stuff that part of yourself because why? Because this is how I matter. I matter when I'm taking care of someone's needs. But there's a part of you inside that says, yeah, but I don't like that fact. I don't want to have to be needed to have a friend. What if I'm needed? No. You can't have needs. Your needs are bad. Or at least they're not as bad as someone else's. And so we discount those things. That kind of conditional love is very detrimental. It's very unhealthy. It's very sad. Again, it's just like you telling a little child, you putting your finger wagging in their face and going, you don't matter unless you're trying to heal everybody else. Whatever the issue might be, whatever your I matter when, whatever fill in the blank. In the Christian worldview, we don't have to live that way. This is not for guilt. And like I said, it's not that you're not a dirty, rotten sinner if you have these kind of beliefs in you. It doesn't mean you're screwed for life either. It does mean that you're wounded. It does mean that you're wounded. In the Christian worldview, we don't have to have this fear. Now, if you're a non-Christian, I don't know, your value probably does come from performance or some other, I don't know where, you make believe where it comes from. And you'll find yourself never really fully satisfied probably in life because you'll always feel conditional love and acceptance. Well, I matter when I'm very wealthy and I don't have to rely upon anybody. I can take care of my own needs. Well, that's true until you don't have enough money. And if you lose the money, then you don't matter anymore. Well, that's unfortunate. It's just constantly conditional. In the Christian worldview, Christians are to believe. Doesn't mean they all believe this. In fact, in my experience, many Christians don't, in fact, really believe this. They'll say they know it. They say they know it. They don't really believe it. What is true and what we're supposed to believe, because it's true, is that we don't matter when. We're not lovable when. period. And so a Christian, a really healthy, mature, healthy, well-adjusted Christian, when I ask the question, fill in the blank, I would say, what would be the answer to the question, I matter when? A healthy individual would say, no, the answer is, I don't matter when. That's not the fill in the blank. You should have said, I don't matter when. I matter because I matter to God. So if you want to win, okay, I matter when I matter to God, but that's already a fact. It already matters. God loves me right now. I'm valuable to him right now. If the creator and sustainer of the universe says I matter, then I matter. Period. So any other conditional thing, any conditional responsibility you put upon yourself or requirement you put upon yourself, it means you do disagree with God. God doesn't really know what he's talking about, and his value and love of you isn't really good enough. You only are lovable and valuable when you're doing something else that God never asked of you in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that for guilt. You learned that as a child, some point. You learned it because you learned it from some adult, some authority figure, and then it got stuck in you because it worked to some degree. There was some survival benefit to it. So you don't judge yourself that you have the belief. It's just in you, and you got it, and it worked as a child. And now as an adult, we say, is this what I want to do? Do I want to keep believing this? So again, the key is not to discount your feelings or judge yourself. It's that, yeah, it got in me, probably from a young age, probably so, and it stuck. I never really thought about it before. Now that it's there, do I really want to tell myself the rest of my entire life that you're really not good enough unless you're doing blank? Or do I want to replace those false beliefs with a true belief, my inner core belief that I matter right now because I exist? God says I'm valuable and I'm lovable, period. Period. And if you don't know your Bible well, maybe you can trust me, maybe not, but he does right now. I'm very, very fortunate to have two fantastic children and to take after their mom. And they were valuable. I mean, from the second we knew, and before then, of course, they were already valuable to God, but the second we discovered we were pregnant, they were instantaneously loved. And they were the size of a thumbnail. I mean, they were nothing. They were size-wise, they were just a zygote and nothing. Tiny, 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 but they were extremely valuable to us just because they existed. The little embryo wasn't doing anything, wasn't performing anything, hadn't read a book, hadn't gotten a job, hadn't earned a penny, hadn't been clever for 1 second. And then as he or she, my son or daughter, grew inside their mom, they weren't more loved. They weren't more valuable because, well, now they have more functions. Now they can eat and drink and suck their thumbs. And then they came out and become, I don't love them more. Now, the second I knew they existed, they were Pendergrass and they're my child. They don't need to do anything. I mean, there's no else to say that. They don't need to do anything for me to love them more. I don't love them more now that they're older. I won't love them more 5 years from now. It just doesn't. They exist, period. And if I told my children as they were growing up, you don't matter until, you only matter when you're scoring great grades on your tests and exams. You're only valuable when XYZ. That would be horrible emotional abuse. It would be horrible emotional abuse. And a lot of us have heard that as children. You might have heard that. That's exactly what I was told, David. I didn't matter and I wouldn't matter, whatever. And your parents, to say such despicable, horrible, sinful things is wrong. What you deserve to be told, what you deserve to have been told, was the exact opposite, which is, I love you, I'm proud of you, you matter to me right now. You don't need to do anything to earn my love. You have it. You came into this world in a blanket of unconditional love and acceptance. I don't have to accept all your behavior. I don't accept my own behavior. But I love you and accept you. And that's exactly what we're supposed to say to ourselves. To ourselves. We picture ourselves as a young child and we put them up on, because I'm a boy, so I'm a man, so I'll put a young David on my lap and say, I love you. You don't need to do anything. And maybe in the past I used to tell you, I didn't mean to, but maybe in the past I used to tell you, you don't matter and you're not welcome here until you are performing well. Or maybe you don't matter, and I used to tell you this to you, that, well, I don't really want to talk to you and I'm not going to give you attention unless you're doing blank. And I shouldn't have done that. And I'm sorry that I did that. I'm very sorry that I said those things to you and I ever allowed that to be in your belief system because it shouldn't have been there. Now, at the time, when we were younger, you and I believed that because we were taught that, and we should never have been taught that. That wasn't our fault. It wasn't our fault. But now that I know it's in there, and I'm going to do my best to make sure you don't hear that ever again from me, that I accept you as you are. And see, when we don't accept our own selves, when we have that kind of conditional love and acceptance, it feels very unstable and very scary on the inside. And we all know what that feels like. So really healthy people, whatever that looks like to you, or that sounds like to you, they do accept themselves. They have unconditional love of themselves. That it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be in a bad mood. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be stressed. It's okay to be happy. It's just the whole realm of emotional states are okay. It's okay. And we don't judge ourselves all the time, and you shouldn't be ever feeling that or thinking that. Well, sometimes we do. Yeah, okay, well, I don't want to live there. Yeah, okay, I won't live there. But I want to give myself the due attention. And I want to make sure that I know deep inside, from now on, that I'm loved, and I'm lovable, and I'm valued, and I'm valuable, and I matter to my Creator. I'm the son of a king, or I'm the daughter of a king. I'm a prince or princess, period. And I mattered to Him before I was even created. When I was born in my mother's womb, I came out just fully enveloped in His love. Period. Now, He doesn't have to like all my behavior, and He doesn't. We have a word for that called sin, and He has a remedy for that sin. But He loves me. Yeah, even me. And I don't need to perform for anything, for anybody, before He loves me more. Period. And so I'm going to try to take that exact same grace that God gives me, that kind of safety that I am experiencing now. It's true. It's a fact now. And I'm going to extend that to myself. And so on the inside, I'm going to stop demanding that I perform. I'm going to stop demanding that. I don't need to do blank before I love myself and I'm valuable. Not anymore. I'm going to give up. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let that go, and I'm going to drop into that like a high rope person flinging around. They when they're done practicing, they deliberately fall down in the big net below them, a big, soft, springy net, and they just bounce and bounce and bounce and then roll off. That's God's love for me, and that's my love for myself. Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So that's what we need to do. And we can. If that's hard for you, you're just wounded. If that seems impossible, you're just wounded. If that's difficult, you're just wounded. That's all. And you can get better. You can get time. You probably need some good counseling, good therapy. There's some good books on the issues and so forth, good videos on YouTube. But it does take time. But you can get better. You can heal. And it starts by giving yourself permission. It starts by stop judging yourself and discounting your own feelings and thoughts. And but really giving the inner child the chance to speak up. Speak up. And give that inner child a chance to say more. No matter how scary it might sound when it comes out, when you're writing on your journal page, just let him or her feel. And whenever I'm afraid I won't matter if I don't do blah, 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 we'll say more about that. I'm afraid I won't matter if I'm not doing very well. I'm afraid I won't matter to anybody if I'm not the perfect mom or the perfect dad. Okay, well, I'm so sorry you're afraid of that. I'm so sorry that you ever believe that. But you're not more valuable and lovable when you perform. I love you right now, and I can't love you more. And so anyway, it starts with that. So if you want more tips on that, let me know. Otherwise, find you a good Christian therapist and get to work on that and figure out what the roots are, and you can heal. God bless you. See you next time. Well, the conversation isn't finished. You can always reach out to me on social media. Are you on Facebook? I am too. At Glimpse of the Kingdom. Glimpse of the Kingdom on Facebook. Be sure to like it and you can see updates there. Also, if you're on Twitter, check me out at Dr. D. Pendergrass, at Dr. D. Pendergrass, or at Glimpse the King, at Glimpse the King. And I try my best to respond to comments and questions on there as quickly as I can. If you want more, there are many more resources on the podcast and my blog. Go to my website, davidpendergrass.com, davidpendergrass.com, and you can see a full list of the podcast, and my blog is available for free. Are you active in a church right now? I'd be happy to come out to your church and do all kinds of classes and workshops there. Check out davidpendergrass.com, davidpendergrass.com for more information. And may God in His great grace give you even just a glimpse of His kingdom this week. See you next time.